Hello everyone and welcome to my channel again. In today's video we have a video tutorial for the cozy sweater. I showed you this sweater last time in my weekly journal, and today we're finally having the video tutorial for it. So yeah, I'm super excited about this sweater and I hope you'll be too. In this video we will talk about of course we will have a step-by-step tutorial, but I will also share with you a few tips on how to customize this pattern, how to adjust it to any size fit according to your own style and on your wish. So if you're new here, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. My name is Catalina and I'm the person behind By Catalina Design, and I share with you on this channel crochet tutorials and also coming weekly to chat about crochet, to answer your questions or your suggestions, and sharing with you some tips or everything that I learned during this crochet journey. So if this is something that you'll like to watch, please subscribe to my channel. I will be really grateful for that. And now let's just get started with the cozy sweater tutorial. First, we will talk a bit about the materials. I was using medium weight yarn. It's acrylic. It's a Bingo XL from Hobby. And yeah, I know sometimes I crochet with acrylic. Why not? And if you want to substitute it with some other different yarn, I don't think it's really this pattern is not that how to say it. I think you can do it easily. So any medium weight yarn will work, but what I will suggest, because of this texture stitch pattern, which is Alpine Stitch, and I will suggest, if you're substituting the yarn, even if you want to substitute the weight of yarn, then to make swatches. So make swatches, change between hook size, because you will need to find that texture drape that you would like. Also, I was using a bigger crochet hook size than the one recommended. I work it with 6mm crochet hook, and the one recommended was 4.5, and this is because on texture stitches more yarn is they are eating more yarn, and using a bigger crochet hook will help you not to have a sweater that it's becoming too heavy after finishing it. So, but you will need to test it out, to experiment and see what you like for your sweater as a texture, as a fabric, as a end result. Now, this sweater is working panels, so you will work front, back panel, sleeves, and then assembling everything together. At the end, I added this turtleneck collar, but of course that you can change that if you don't like it. You can simply work with I don't know, boat or whatever, smaller ribbing. As you can see, I let this turtleneck a bit wider because I really like the turtleneck, but I'm not kind of a fan of those choking my neck like this, so that's why I let it wider, so I feel like I can breathe. If you want to customize this fit, because it's a pretty oversized fit, it has almost 30 centimeters around my bust, so it's kind of pretty roomy, but this was the result that I wanted. But if you want to customize that and make it like a closer fit, you can do that. These are the steps that you'll need to follow. Step number 1, after choosing your yarn and your crochet hook, recommended or not, the one that you feel comfortable with the tension and everything, then you need to swatch. I do recommend to swatching the Alpine Stitch pattern, and you will find in the PDF version of my pattern you will have a stitch chart, and you can use that for your swatch. And after having your swatch, of course, measure your gauge to know how many stitches and how many rows do you have in a 10 per 10 centimeter square. Next, it's time to establish your measurements. I used as reference the bust measurement, so you will need to measure your bust and then to add the room that you will want to have between your body and the sweater. This will give you the fit of the sweater, and you can use to have it closer to your body or or not, or even far from your body. So after having that, so your bust measurement plus the positive is, you will divide this number by 2, and this will give you the width of your bust, because we are working in panels and it will be easier to establish the number of stitches that we will need to start with. Now that we have the width, it's easier to calculate and to transform these measurements into stitches according to the measurements of our gauge. Now that we have the number of stitches that we want to start with, then we can go to build up our sweater, starting with the back panel or the front panel, depending which one you want to work first. As for the length, you will work as many rows as you want. Of course, you can calculate it from the beginning because you already have a gauge. And of course, that depending on the fiber, or if you're not sure about the fiber, it's preferably to block your gauge first, your gauge swatch, so you will know if the fiber will expand after blocking, to make sure that your final result will have the measurements that you establish at the beginning. After that, you can go and build up your panel. You can measure while you're working on it, or establish from the beginning depending on the desired length. Now I will show you that for my sweater I did this slit over here on the sides, and then the back panel is longer than the front panel, and also at the bottom the front and back panel are narrower than the actual number of stitches that I needed to get to my width. So to do so, you will need to start with less stitches than you calculated and increase for a few rows. For example, I did on the front panel only one increase on one row at the beginning and at the end of the row. This means that I added 2 stitches, so I needed to start my front panel with 2 stitches less. For the back panel, because it's longer, I worked with increases 10 rows, so not only 4 as I did on the front panel. So because I added 8 stitches in total, I started with less. I started with 8 stitches less than the number of stitches that I calculated for my width. And then you'll increase, and you'll see in the tutorial how to do that. Now that you have everything done, for the front panel you will need to shape the neckline, and it's a pretty easy shape. It's a square. So before finishing the length of the front panel, I let 4 rows and worked only the shoulders on those last 4 rows. This means that you will need some stitch markers to mark your neckline, stitches, of course, that you'll need to calculate to have the same number of stitches for one shoulder as for the other, and then continue to work the last 4 rows only into the shoulder stitches. Then fasten off and you finish the front panel. Then you will start with the back panel. On the back panel, again, you will calculate the number of rows that you will need to work. Then we are going to the sleeves. For the sleeves, it's important to measure your wrist and how wide you want to be around your wrist. If you're not sure, you can measure a sweater that you have and you like how wide is it here, and then you need to measure your armhole or your upper arm, because this, if it's drop shoulder and is going down on your arm, you can take as reference your upper arm. So how thick is your arm over here? Of course, adding the ease that you would like, and then you will need to calculate these measurements as stitches. So calculate according with your gauge measurements the stitches for the wrist and the stitches for the armhole. After that, you will need to measure the length. And to measure the length, it'll be easier to know where your sweater or front panels are laying, like down on your arm, and then measure from there up to where you want your sleeves to end. It's also easy and handy to place your front back panels on a sweater that you already have. It doesn't matter the fit, but you will know, you will be able to measure the sleeve that you have on the actual sweater. And then you will need to transform this length into rows. Now, you will have less number of stitches here than here. So you will need to calculate with how many stitches you need to increase, so to get from here over here. And after having that number of stitches, you will divide that number by 2, which will result in number of increased rows, because you will increase 2 stitches per row, one at the beginning and one at the end of the row. Now that you have the number of increasing rows, then you will need to divide those rows into the total number of rows of your sleeve. If you want a more like a repeated pattern, divide the total number of rows that you need for the length, add the number of increasing rows, and this will give you a number which will be the numbers of rows in a pattern repeat for the increase. Of course, you might not have a rounded number, so it's better to round it to the smaller number. For example, if you have 4.5 as a result, you will work 4 repeat rounds, which will mean 1 row with increase and 3 rows without increasing. And then after having this repeated pattern all the way around, if you round it to the smallest number, then you might have a few rows to work without increasing. So after that, you'll place your sweater after finishing the sleeves, assemble, sew the pieces together, and done. For other details and color, please watch the next video, because you will find a step-by-step tutorial then. So if you have everything ready, let's get started. Okay, so I'm using the Bingo XL from Hobby. This is 100% acrylic yarn, and as I checked afterwards, the recommended crochet hook is 5.5, and as I said, we will be using 6mm crochet hook. I'm starting now working on the front panel, and as I explained a bit earlier, I will start with 2 stitches less than the width of my panel. I need to have 65 stitches for my front panel, so I will need to have for my first row 63. Okay, 63 and 64, because we will need the turning chain. And now, starting with the second stitch, we will single crochet into each stitch across. Okay, so this is how my first row is looking, and now we will chain 3, and this will count as a first double crochet. So now we need to pay attention to the stitches on the previous row because we will need to work front post stitches. I decided for this first row to use double crochet front post because the thing is that it's not 2 rows below as it will be farther on, so I said that I don't need the stitch to be that longer. And now we will alternate one front post double crochet with a regular double crochet until we will finish the row. When you are making the double crochet front post, you will see that you will need to insert your hook into previous stitch before, just to lay down on in the front of your next stitch. This will be a little bit tricky for the first row, but I know you can do it. And now I am about to finish with a regular double crochet. And we will chain 1, and now we will do the increase. So into the first stitch we're working 2 single crochet, and I did the beginning of the row increase, and now we will go to work single crochet into each stitch, and into the last one we will do an increase again. So we will work 2 single crochet into the last stitch. The last stitch will be the third chain because we said that the chain 3 at the beginning counts as a first double crochet. So I just work 2 single crochet there. And now we're about to work again this front post stitches, and we need to pay attention to the third stitch here, which will need to be a regular double crochet because on top of the front post stitches we will put regular double crochet. So my second stitch needs to be a front post stitch, so that is why I will go to do it around the chain 3. Now into the third stitch we will go with a regular double crochet, and as we said, and now we have the first 3 stitches at the beginning. Now we'll yarn over twice and we will go with a front post triple crochet around the double crochet 2 rows below, then double crochet and continue and repeat. And we will be repeating up to the end of the row, and this is my finished row. And now I won't increase anymore. I will start to work the Alpine Stitch pattern until I will get to the desired length, or better said, with 4 rows before the desired length, because I will want to shape the neckline. So now I'm turning, and we will work single crochet into each stitch. And you will see, because we need to work the front post stitches offset, that the right side row is not quite similar with the previous right side row. They are 2 rows or 2 sections repeat. So now again I'm looking at the second stitch over here, so I need to make a regular double crochet because I have that front post stitch. So I will do a regular double crochet even if my chain 3 counts as a regular double crochet. So don't get fooled by this, that you had already one double crochet as a chain 3 and you need to go with a front post, because you need to look at the stitch post on the previous wrong side row and work the stitches in between the front post stitches. So this will be one type of the row that will start and end with 2 regular double crochet, and we will see right away the other one. So now we will repeat up to the end of the row. Alternating one front post triple crochet with one double crochet. You'll see the Alpine Stitch in some patterns with front post double crochet as well, but I do prefer the triple crochet because it's not that, for garments at least, because it's not that dense. So now I will finish the row with 2 regular double crochets. I'm looking in the back to make sure that I skipped one stitch, because you could see the single crochet that is actually, you didn't work into it, you just work into the front post, into the post 2 stitches, 2 rows below. So we end up with 2 double crochet, and it's perfectly fine because we need to have a symmetrical piece. So as we started, we need to finish the row in the same manner. Now we will continue with single crochet stitches for the next row, and we will work 1 single crochet into each stitch. And at the end of the row we will chain 3 and turn, and let's look how the stitches are worked right now. So if I'm looking at the second stitch, I need to work a front post, so I have already my chain 3. So this is why I said that the rows are starting a bit differently, because one row starts with a double crochet into the second stitch and the other will start with a front post triple crochet into the second stitch, because we need to alternate this front post stitches so that we have this beautiful textured pattern. So now we will continue to work to alternate one front post triple crochet with one double crochet until we will get to the end of the row. And basically we will repeat these 4 rows until we will have in total for the front panel 59 rows, or until you have the desired length, of course, in case you want to have your front panel shorter or the entire sweater shorter. So I will continue to work these rows and we will meet to shape the neckline. So this is the front panel, how it's looking so far. I already used some stitch markers to mark the shoulder stitches. So this is like, you will need to decide how many stitches you'll let for the neckline, for the collar, and then divide the rest of the stitches by 2. And of course you need to have an even number of stitches, the exact number of stitches for each shoulder. I had here 20 stitches for each shoulder, and now for the next 4 rows I will work only into this left shoulder, which I have over here, only into the stitches. So now I will finish the row. Here is with the double crochet. I still have 1 stitch left over here because I marked I put a stitch marker into the last stitch of the shoulder. And I finished with another double crochet because I want my rows to start and finish in the same way. So now for the second row of the shoulder we will work single crochet stitches, and then we will work 2 more rows into the established stitch pattern to finish with this shoulder. Okay, so I will work two more rows. And then we will move to the other shoulder to work it in the same way as we worked. As the same, only into the stitches that we marked for the shoulder. We will work the last 4 rows of this front panel. Okay, I have on the side to work 1 more row in single crochet and then we're done. Okay, now we simply can cut the yarn. If you want, you can let the tail being like 3 times the length of the width of the shoulder, if you want to use this end to sew the shoulders at the end. So now to work the other shoulder, I will rejoin the yarn into the marked stitch. And of course that I will need to use at the post of the stitches 2 rows below to see how I need to work my stitches. So I do have a front post over here, so I will go with a regular double crochet, and then I will continue into the established stitch pattern, working the stitches as they should. And we will work 4 rows for this shoulder as well, and then we will fasten off because we are done with the front panel, and we can move to the back panel of the sweater. Okay, so now I'm cutting the yarn and we can move to the back panel of the cozy sweater. Okay, now we will start to work on the back panel, and my back panel will be longer than the front panel, and I will start with 8 stitches less than the width of my front panel, than 65 stitches, because I want to increase for the bottom of the back panel 10 rows, so not only 4 as I did for the front panel, but more rows. So now we will chain. So I will chain 58, meaning that I will have 57 stitches for the bottom of my back panel for the foundation chain, and then starting with the second stitch we will single crochet, and we will follow basically the same increase pattern as for the front panel. So we will increase for the first 10 rows only on the single crochet
row, working 2 stitches at the beginning of the row, 2 stitches at the end of the row, and we will do that for the first 10 rows. The first single crochet row is not with increases, so only starting with row number 3, and then we will continue after finishing those 10 rows, starting with row 11. We will continue working into the Alpine stitch until we will have the length of the back panel. I said that I was working more rows for the back panel. As for the front panel, I was working actually with 6 rows more. So we will work in total this time 69 rows. We don't need to shape neckline or something like that, so we will simply go with working the back panel into the established stitch pattern. And yeah, so this is about it with the back panel. We don't have too many things to show you here because it's the same. So this is the 3rd row, which is in single crochet, and I already increased at the beginning of the row, and I will also increase at the end of the row. And we will repeat so, increasing on every single crochet row until we will have 10 rows in total. And always when working the these front stitches on after an increasing row is easier if you're looking into the second post, which will be the 3rd stitch that you'll need to work, and this will give you an idea of how you need to work basically the second stitch. So here my 3rd stitch is a front post, so I will need to work a regular double crochet on top of it. So I did the front post triple crochet around the chain 3 2 rows below, and then I will continue with the stitch pattern until I will get to the end of the row. And as I said, the length of the sweater of the back panel will have in total for my size 69 rows. Okay, so let's continue working on the back panel, and we will meet after finishing the back panel to work the sleeves. So into the next frame we will have the sleeve pattern and we will work on the sleeves. Okay, so we will start now to work on the sleeves. I'm starting with the wrist this time, but you can start into the armhole after joining the shoulders if you find it easier this way. And I will start with 32 stitches to have 31 stitches after finishing my first row. If you want to adjust the sleeve width or the wrist, you can simply measure the wrist that you would like, and of course according with your gauge to measure and see how many stitches you will need to start with. For the sleeves I chose an increase pattern, but not that many stitches. And I will show you right away which is the increase pattern for the sleeve. So the first row will be as usual single crochet stitches, and actually the first 6 rows we will work them into the Alpine stitch pattern without making any increase. So now the second row, the same, I will work the second row with double crochet front post stitches, because as I said at the beginning of the front panel, if I will work triple crochet front post stitches, because I'm working right into the row below, they will be too tall compared with a regular double crochet. So that is why I chose for this row to work double crochet front post stitch, and after that we will continue starting with the row number 4. We will continue working the triple crochet front post stitches. Okay, I will continue to finish this row with a double crochet into the last stitch. On the third row, as I said, we will work single crochet into each stitch, no increases this time, because I will start the first increase row with row number 7. So now let's just continue and working into the established pattern until row 6, and then we will start with our increases. And I will explain to you the increase pattern that I chose for the sleeves, but of course that I explained you at the beginning of this video how you can adjust and you can choose your own increase pattern if you want so. So now row number 7 is the first increase row, so I will work 2 single crochet into the first stitch. Then I will continue with single crochet into the rest of the stitches except the last one, and into the last stitch I will increase again. Then again for the for the next row, it's easier if you're looking at the post stitch, which is the second post 2 rows below, and see how you need to work that stitch. That will be your third stitch on current row. So this is how it's easier to establish which will be the post of the second stitch, because you will see that it will change just because we need to intercalate this front post stitches. So now this is row number 8, and with the increase pattern I chose to have an increase row at every 8 rows. So between my increasing rows I have 8 rows without increasing. In case you want to increase more stitches, then you can adjust the number of rows that you will have in between increases, and we will continue to work until we will have the desired length, and I worked in total 45 rows for the sleeve. If you want to take into consideration a ribbing cuff, then you will need to work less rows. Maybe you can just keep the first 6 rows at the beginning to have enough width for a cuff. So yeah, this is how the sleeve is looking right now, and as I said, we will repeat increasing at every 8 rows. Okay, after finishing the sleeves, this is how it's looking, and I'm about to fasten off, and because I want to use this tail to sew the sleeves into the armholes of my sweater, this is how I'm measuring the tail, how long to be. So I'm putting it to have 3 times the width of the sleeves, and this is like a tested technique, so it will be enough yarn that I will need to sew my sleeves in. So after finishing with the sleeves, we are about to go further and assemble the sweater, and because we have all 4 panels done, and let's see what we will have to do next. Okay, I just realized that before going to assemble the sweater, I want to make the bottom edge of the sweater because I want to do the border also on those side rows that where I did the increases, because I want to have like a slit into the sides. So if I'm doing so, it's better to do it before sewing, because otherwise it will be difficult to have a nice and neat slit over there. So I will need to rejoin the yarn into the first single crochet that I have without an increase. I'm working here on the back panel, but it will be the same on the on the front panel, only that you will have, of course, less side rows to work this edge on, but the rest will be the same. So I'm rejoining yarn into the first single crochet side row where I don't have an increase. You're looking besides shaping, because you can see when the panel is starting to go straight, but besides shaping you can simply look at the edge of the row, and if you don't see two single crochet in the same stitch, then means that there you should start your row. So, and another important thing, because I want to keep this edge straight in line with the side edge of the back panel, I will have to make an increase at the decrease at the beginning and at the end of the row. So I will start with a decrease, and I will work into the side rows as follows. Every single crochet side rows I will have one single crochet. Every double crochet or 3 chain side row I will have 2 single crochet. So I will continue now working the stitches like this, as I told you, and until the corner over there, when we will need to turn on the foundation chain, because we will need to work more stitches there so we can have a nice turning and a nice corner. Okay, slowly I'm trying to work those stitches exactly through the stitches of those side rows. I avoid working them under the chain or under the stitch, because if you're working through them, then it will look neater and nicer, that edge. Another important thing about when working into the side rows, I establish this pattern, like working 1 single crochet into the single crochet side row, 2 single crochets into the double crochet side row, because this is working for me for my tension, but you need to adjust that if you feel so. If you think that your single crochet stitches are too wide apart one of each other, or they are too close, then you need to adjust that, because otherwise if you have too many single crochet then it will curl. If you have less single crochet then it will bend or take other shape that we don't want. Now for the increase into the corner, we will need to work 3 stitches into that stitch, and I'm choosing to work into the side row first, and I will work 1 stitch or 2 stitch into the side row, and then when turning on the side of the foundation row I can work 2 more stitches there, or you can work all 3 of them into the same space, it's fine. And then I will go and work on the other side of the foundation chain with a single crochet into each stitch. Okay, so now I will just continue working the single crochet stitches on the other side of the foundation chain, and when we will get to the last stitch we will do the corner again, working 3 stitches into that corner. Okay, into the corner again. I will choose to work into the side row, but you can work one stitch into the last stitch and then going into the side row with the other two. And now again, you can use stitch markers if you want to mark your last stitch, which will be the first row, single crochet row without an increase. And we will follow the same pattern, working 2 single crochet into the double crochet side row and 1 single crochet into the single crochet side row. And when we have 2 stitches left, we will finish it with an we will need to finish it with a decrease again. So we will decrease at the beginning and at the end of this row, because we want to maybe it not having any sense, but if we're not doing those decreases, then we will add some fabric to the edge, and when we will sew, because we will need to stitch together this edge that we are working right now, then it won't look nice, because we will have that extra fabric in single crochet lying next to that border. So that's why we are doing these decreases. Also, if I'm working these types of edging into the round and I have some slits or corners, I always do decreases into the middle of the slit to just have it nice and as a corner, and not adding that extra fabric into that corner. So now I will try to find the stitches, because we have those front post triple crochet around the chain 3 that we worked, and it's kind of difficult to get through them. But again, I'm trying to work into the stitches or through the stitches, so I will have a nice and neat edge. Okay, let's see, not to forget that into the last 2 stitches that we will have here, we will need to decrease again, and then we will chain 1 and turn. And for the second row of this edge, we will work single crochet stitches, and again we will start with a decrease and we will finish with a decrease, so that the this edge to be in the same line as the edge of the sweater. For the second row, we won't do those increases into the corners. So besides this decrease at the beginning and at the end of the row, we will continue with 1 single crochet into each stitch. Okay, so we just turn without having that increase, but it will be easier for you to mark the second stitch that you work over those 3 stitches, because it will be easier to identify the stitch where you should make an increase on the third row, because we will do a third row, but I chose to work slip stitches this time, not single crochet, because the slip stitches will add a thick edge on this row, and I kind of thought that it will look nicer this way, but of course that you can work single crochet as well, and of course if you prefer another type of edging, you are okay to do so. Now let me show you how to make the decrease for the slip stitch. Like so. I didn't have time even to explain it, but I hope you saw it, and I will show you at the end of the row as well. So now slip stitch into every stitch, and remember that I said to mark the second stitch of the corner, because we might consider necessarily to work an increase there, but I will do it only with 2 slip stitches. So this is how it's looking, the edge right now. 1 slip stitch, and then I will go into the same with another one. Just make this stitch a bit longer to have a nice corner over here. And we will do the same on the other corner. I hope you marked the the middle stitch. And now again, insert the hook, pull out a loop, insert the hook, pull out a loop, and then pass that loop through all the loops on your hook. And this is how we did the decrease in slip stitch. Now we are ready to cut the yarn, and you should continue and working on the front panel in the same manner. You will have less row on the sides than we had on the back panel, but the process will be the same. Now that we have the edges ready, we can start to assemble our sweater, and I will start by sewing the shoulders, and I have the same technique, measuring the length that I need to sew and having the yarn 3 times that length, and this will be enough yarn to sew these pieces together. If you find it easier to use the crochet hook and join the shoulders with, I don't know, with slip stitches or with single crochet stitches, you are free to do so. I do prefer this ladder stitch, and I'm doing it all the time, so this is my preferred method to join 2 crochet pieces. So I insert the needle from back through front into the first stitch of my right panel, the panel that is in the right, then from front to back into the first stitch that is on the left. And then I will go into the same first stitch into the right and pull out the needle through the second stitch or the next stitch, and then going into the same first stitch into the left and getting out through the second stitch, and then going into the second, going out through the third, and continue weaving like this until we finish to join this shoulder. And of course that we will have to repeat the same with the second shoulder. Okay, so this is how it's looking after stitching it together. I will try see that we have still enough yarn left, and I will weave in that end. try not to pull the yarn too much, because otherwise you won't have a nice edge. And depending on the fiber that you are working on, this is not my case because acrylic is kind of having a good memory, but if you're working in a different fiber, preferably to block your pieces before sewing. Now with the sleeve, I'm counting the stitches that I have for the sleeve. I have 41 stitches, and I will count the 21st, and I will place a stitch marker into that stitch and into the middle, into the shoulder seam. This will mark the middle of the sleeve, and now I'm counting to have the same number of rows on the back panel and the same number of rows on the front panel to make sure that my sleeve is nice and even, and try to not to pull too tight from the sleeve or from the panel edges to make sure that your seam will be nice and neat. It's another idea is to calculate the difference between the gauge, because you know that we have I don't think I told it, but you can find it into the description box, the tension. And actually we had for 11 rows and 9.5 11 stitches and 9.5 rows into 10 per 10 centimeter square. So you can see how many stitches you need per row, and you can then adjust your sewing accordingly. But this is too much complicated, and being that perfect is not the case. So I'm simply counting to have the same number of rows on one panel as on the other, and mark those stitches with the end of the sleeve, so I make sure that I will go with my seaming where it should be. So I think I had 8, I counted only the front post rows, and I had 8 if I remember correctly. And then into the same manner, using the ladder stitch, I will start sewing. And this time I kind of look at the stitches to make sure, because I'm sewing single crochet stitches into the side row stitches, and if we are keeping the same proportion as I said into the edging, to have one single crochet or 2 single crochet per double crochet side row and single crochet per single crochet side row. And if you are keeping this proportion, we might keep to have a nice and neat sewing, but otherwise than that, again, it depends a lot on your tension, so always look at the correspondent stitches, how they are laying down. And it might be even easier to place more stitch markers or safety pins to make sure that your sleeve is in place, and that you can that will not move, and you can keep it straight while you're doing this seaming. So now let's continue and sew this sleeves. And of course that we will do the same on the other sleeve, and then we'll need to assemble the sides of the sweater. Okay, so now we need to fold the sweater into half, and we will sew the side edges. I will use the same ladder stitch to complete this side seaming. Now that we are done with all the assembling, we have basically the sweater, but I do want to work the turtleneck for this color. And even if I have this single crochet row over here, I will work one more single crochet round as a foundation for my color, and because I think it will look nicer, and also because I want those side edges to even them and not to work the ribbing into the side rows, because I don't know how it will look like. For the collar, I'm using a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, so I choose to use a smaller one, and I will work this this collar into a half double crochet slip stitch or double slip stitch pattern, but you can work any stitch that you want. So now I'm going to work the single crochet around, and when working in those side rows at the front panel, we will keep the same proportion as we did until now with the side rows, and we will work only one single crochet round, so only one round. Trying to hide those ends as well. Here I am on the other side of the front panel. And I will go nicely with 2 single crochet into each double crochet side row and 1 single crochet into the single crochet side row. Then we will continue with the front, I think, and we will go with a single crochet into each stitch. At the end of the row, we will slip stitch into the first single crochet. I do have a few more stitches over here. And slip stitch. Now, because I want that foldable or folded neckline, I will start my ribbing with 26 stitches. But of course, if you want a lower neck, then you can chain less. I think it's kind of, let's just chain a few more. Okay, and then starting with the second stitch, we will do the double slip stitch. So yarn over, pull out the loop and pass it through the loops on your hook, and repeat until you get to the edge of the neckline. Okay, so this is how it's looking. And when we got to the edge, we will slip stitch into the next 2 stitches of the neckline. Then turn. Make sure you're skipping those 2 slip stitches, and now we will go into the back loop only with these double slip stitches. And we will continue and repeat to the end. At the end of the row, we will go into the last stitch, chain 1 and turn, and now also into the back loop we continue with the same stitch pattern to go into the back loop with this double slip stitches, and we will repeat until we will get at the edge of the neckline, and we will connect this ribbing again with those slip stitches. Okay, and now we will slip stitch into the next 2 stitches of the neckline, and we will repeat these 2 rows until we will complete the entire circumference of the neckline. Okay, I finished all the rows that I needed to complete the circumference of my collar, and now because I want to wear it folded, I will need to join this side, and I will do it on the right side in case if it's not looking okay, to just make sure that when folded it will be nice on the other side. So we will use slip stitches to join these edges, and we will go with the hook into the back loop only, or you can go through both loops and a slip stitch, and make sure that you insert the hook into both sides or both edges. It's not looking that bad on the front side either, so I think if I will mess up the parts I will be, or the sides, I will be happy with it anyways. So we will continue to go further with slip stitches to join these edges, and after this detail I think the sweater is done because we don't have anything to do with it. I had my sleeves being too long as they are. Well, not too long, they were really nice, but I didn't had any other space to work this ribbing on the cuffs as well. But if yours are shorter, or you you were a better planner than I was with the sleeves, then you can add this ribbing to the cuffs as well. I think it will look nice. If not, I think they are working perfectly even without the ribbing. And after that you just need to hide weaving your ends, and the sweater is done. I know that it's a pretty long tutorial, but I hope that you enjoyed it. I tried to have all those steps into the tutorial so it will be easier for you to follow along. So thank you so much for watching, and see you next time with another tutorial or weekly journal. Bye!